Hello, my name is Stephen Redman. Welcome to Pastor's Library, the channel where we discuss all things to do with theology books, books that might be on a reading list for a seminary course, for a bachelor's or master's degree in biblical studies or biblical theology, or simply just books that may have piqued your interest as you've seen them on a shelf somewhere or possibly online. If you like what we have to say, please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe and click on the bell. That will just make sure that you get to know when we release a new episode. Please leave comments as well, because if you have something to ask or say or comment on, I will try and get back to you. I seriously will. So, today I want us to talk about a particular author and their seminal work on a commentary on Peter. So, briefly a little bit about the author's other works. I'm talking about David G. Horrell, who has written quite a lot about 1 Peter. Now this is amazingly the same series as the other recent video I did, T&T Clark New Testament Guides, or T&T Clark Bible Study Guides. This is one of that series, but in a different binding, and it is similar in its layout and design. It's definitely a useful overview to 1 Peter, although personally I would say I would want to read a bit wider than this, but it definitely has something to offer. And so I picked this up when I was looking for my New Testament guide for T&T Clark, and when it came in a different binding, I didn't quite at first link to it what it was, but this is that, so to speak. This is the one that I'm, if you like, the least impressed with. This is part of the Library of New Testament Studies, and they tend to be very, very good books. This is a series of essays dealing with 1 Peter and looking overall at the subject of Christian identity. This was published in 2013 in hardback, 2015 in paperback, so this is a 2015. 298 pages. It has some interesting things it talks about. For example, he doesn't hold to Peter being the author of 1 Peter. He holds that 1 Peter has a later view, particularly like what a lot of people would say about 2 Peter. And I would suggest to you that slightly put me off, because I'm a big believer that 1 Peter was written by Peter. But whoever it was written by, his overview of the text and the issues he raises are very interesting. For example, there's a chapter on who are the dead, when was the gospel preached to them, issues like that. And that's well worth a read, frankly. I found I got quite a lot from that. But I got this book unbelievably cheaply. I can't remember. Do you know, I think it was maybe someone gave me it free, which probably is why I think of it as very cheaply. But I would suggest to you this was not a book I would have gone out and bought. But it's a Horrell, and I'm including it in this because I'm talking about him. The book that he's probably best known for, before the big life's work one I'm going to come to in a moment, is his contribution to Epworth commentaries. This is the Epistles of Peter and Jude. It was written in 1998. It's 187 pages, and this is a useful introductory commentary, an intermediate commentary really, ideal for group leaders, for pastors. 1998 means it's only probably quotable for another 4 years at this point in time, but it still has something to offer. It's academic, but it's not technical, and whereas I wouldn't spend a lot on it, I wouldn't want to think I'd spent £30 on this, when for £30 you can get a very modern, very good commentary on 1 Peter. This is definitely worth having in your collection. Okay, what am I talking about today? Well, I have done a previous video on the International Critical Commentary series. Someone was very gracious to give me a box full of them. I'd recently been trying to buy a few key ones. This is a whole series of commentaries going back around about 100 years. And they are starting to slowly renew them. For example, I understand that N.T. Wright has got a volume commissioned at the moment. But this is 1 Peter, again by David G. Horrell, this time with Travis B. Williams. And this commentary is 2 volumes of 853 and 816 pages. Both of them came out in 2023. So this is absolutely bang up to date. This can't possibly cause anybody any real problem. And it follows the overall historical plan that the ICCs have followed. But let me just say this one thing to you. These are expensive. Typically £60-70 a volume. So you're probably talking £150 maybe for the 2. This is a lot of money. But if you can only get volume 2, get volume 2, because of its 816 pages, 160 are the bibliography. 160-page bibliography. A bang up-to-date, detailed bibliography on 1 Peter. Now this is a great resource. And you know me and my belief about get a good bibliography and you're set up for life. So you can find anything virtually that Horrell has come up with. I would suggest to you volume 2 is worth it just for the bibliography. This has very good layout. The pages are clear, the fonts are clear, the pages are brilliant white. It comes in a nice slip cover with a green hardbound exterior. Now, I have been disappointed in some volumes previously. This I was not disappointed in. This is not the sort of commentary that you really want to sit down for an evening's entertainment with. This is an extremely technical commentary. It is very, very well thought out. This is clearly, I would have imagined, an over 10-year project to get something out of this quality. This is a very, very excellent commentary. Having said that, it would still probably not be the first one I would turn to. And for that, I would refer you to my previous video on commentaries on 1 Peter. But I think that with the history of this series, this is showing a great way forward. If they're going to produce newish volumes, new volumes that are up to date and quotable, then this, I would suggest, shows the way forward. And I really do think this is excellent. Now look, if you can get a deal on these, and by that I mean somebody who just wants to get rid of them off the shelf, they've been sat there for months, no one's bought them, then buy them. But if you're going to pay the typical retail price, you've got to seriously think about this, because these are expensive books. Just to pick out a couple of verses in chapter 2 that Horrell writes about, 2 verse 21 says, Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example so that you should follow his steps. Harsh treatment, Horrell writes, was normal for Roman slaves. And what he is suggesting here is that the author is reminding us of how Christ suffered. He is not saying that you should look for an opportunity to suffer, or he's not saying that slavery is good. He's not supporting slavery. He is saying that Peter is saying is that we have a model in the life of Christ for suffering, and we should follow that model. So if you are held against your will in slavery and you have no option of freedom at this moment in time, then you should suffer as Christ suffered, with the attitude to which he experienced suffering. He is not saying slavery is good or appropriate or just suck it up, guys. What he's saying here is that Christ's suffering is something we should learn from. And I thought that was an interesting viewpoint. When it gets to verse 24, which is the one that says, "And by his wounds we have been healed," the author doesn't really engage perhaps with the more regular discussion about, is healing contained in the atonement? Is healing attributed to the stripes? Jesus is back. He doesn't get into that at all. But what he does do is it produces a further link to beaten slaves. And he suggests an eschatological healing for beaten slaves, is the meaning to this. Not saying he's wrong, I'm just saying that wouldn't have perhaps been the first avenue I would have fallen down. So what I would suggest is he has something to say. So don't dismiss the international critical commentaries. They do have a place, and particularly as they're renewing them, and those people that are writing academically can now quote from them more appropriately, there is some hope. And certainly this 2-volume one is definitely worth considering if you can get it at the right price. So I hope that's been good for you. If it has, please remember to subscribe and click on the bell. Give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed what I've said today, and also leave a comment below if you've anything to say. I will try to get back to you. Until next time then.
Bye!